Namaste. Welcome back to Waking Up with Mindful Serenity. We're going to continue answering questions from the jar, or I'm going to do my best to answer a question from a jar within the 10-minute time frame. These questions are either been given to me by other individuals, both directly or indirectly, or I've heard them asked before to other individuals, and I want to try to attempt to answer them myself. For whatever reason, this is just a practice for me being able to impromptu speak again, speak on the spot, help with my speaking skills. It is also to help me see if I've assimilated the learning I've been gaining over the years. So that being said, I'm going to pull a question from the jar, and I'm going to read it within a 10-minute time frame, or attempt to. And the question I received was, why do people still follow leaders like DT when they do such awful things? I think we know who DT is, and this is a question that was asked to me. So why do people follow leaders like DT when they do such awful things? And our leaders will do awful things sometimes. They'll do things we won't agree with. They'll do harmful things. And some leaders, unfortunately, are not very conscious at that level of evolution where they could be doing more. Some leaders have big egos and act out of their egos rather than acting out of their higher selves. And some leaders actually believe they're right. And so, in that sense, it's hard to run people who truly believe that what they're doing is right when others believe it isn't. Sometimes when I think it was William James said, some of our biggest problems come from our adhering to our convictions over, an open mind. So that happens as well with some of our leaderships. And we look to our leaders to guide us. But at the same time, we are the ones that elected our leaders. We are the ones that put them into the places where they're in a position to lead. We're the ones that say it is okay that they continue to lead. And we are the ones that they represent in so many different ways. So when we look at our leaderships, it's a small fraction of the population actually are in leadership roles. But these leaders are actually a representation of the majority of population. Of course, we have different factions within every political system, different sides, right and left sides, as well as a faction of other sides that are trying to be heard and seen. But for the most part, the leaders represent humanity. They represent where we are human-wise. And if sometimes we're not aware that they have the mandates they have until they're actually in office or are leading us, and then all of a sudden we're shocked by what they're doing and shocked by what they're saying and shocked by what they're behaving and how they're behaving, and they're already in that position for so many years, so it's challenging to do anything about it. And some people, because even when they realize that maybe they weren't the individual that I wanted to be leading me, but they may feel so connected to their convictions that they can't let go of that, so they'll support these leaders regardless. There's many reasons why we support leaders who do awful things. And awful, again, is a very relative term. It's awful to us as individuals. It's awful to us as a collective. That depends, right? Any breach against humanity's rights, to me, is something I wouldn't maybe not use the word awful, but it would be definitely use the word unwholesome and unhealthy for humanity. So we had to be very cautious if others are getting hurt by what we're doing. And sometimes in a system we have no choice. Okay, who do I hurt and who do I not hurt? To save somebody else. When we come to defense and things like that. But when it comes to attacking and it comes to being the one to strike out, we have to be very mindful that we are not hurting others to gain something that the ego wants, whether it be the individual ego of the leader or the collective ego of those that leader represents, is another question we have to look at. And if people are getting hurt to make us feel better, even if we take it away from leadership and into individual relating, if other people are getting hurt to make us feel better so that we get what we feel like we want and need to be powerful and strong. And then we're more or less just bullying, are we not, our way through life. And so when we see that representation in our leaderships, we have to say, first of all, well, what have I done? Like, you can't control. I mean, there's only so much you can do. You can vote and you can do whatever you need to do to protest and whatnot. But instead of struggling against what is, say this particular leader who's doing atrocious things is now in power, and instead of struggling against it, we need to first of all, accept that this is it. You know, you can say, no, that can't be happening. It is happening. It is it. This is what's going on. Accept it. Okay? Look at all the variables around it, you know. Look at how that leadership got there. Find out more about the leadership and the mandate of the leadership as much as you can. And of course, what happens here in these situations, a lot of times people feel for their own safety and their own security of questioning the leadership or doing what will happen to me as an individual if I question the leadership, if I go against the mandate, if I say this. You see so many people getting in trouble for speaking up and getting unfairly and justly treated and cruelly treated because they are standing up to what they don't feel is right in that leadership. We still have to have the courage to do that, to question, because many of these societies are democratic or could be democratic in their philosophies, and so we should have a right to express ourselves without struggling against, without getting caught up in all that angst, and you feel that tightness in your belly and resistance. I don't want this, we gotta do something, It's not so much about doing something. It's first of all about, like I said, accepting and allowing this is the way it is for a period of time. And maybe there's a universal consequence to this that we cannot see that may be beneficial to society, you know. It's making us see what's in the human psyche. It's making us see what humans are capable of. It's making us see how what's making me see is because I see the protest against it. It makes me see how ego is no longer what people want, right? People are moving away from egoic needs and egoic quests, and they're seeking peace and collectiveness and unity. And when I see that going on within certain leaderships and the followers of these leaderships, I'm thinking, oh, wow, that's a good thing. It's being thrown in our face what the human psyche can do. You know, the damage it can cause. It's thrown in our face, and now we're actually seeing for the first time in centuries how ridiculous it is and how unserving it is. And it's not what the general masses want anymore. And that in itself is tremendous growth as far as I'm concerned for humanity. The fact that we're seeing this contrast that we've never been able to see, and knowing that is not what we want. And we want more. We want to go deeper now. We don't want egoic satisfaction, you know, have power and money and, you know, at the expense of other nations. We want peace. We want unity. We want to go deeper than the ego and the egoic needs. And so when we see that those egos so flamboyantly in our faces, we don't want that. So we're seeking the opposite of that. So to me, that's like an evolutionary step, and that we as a human race and as a society and as nations and as global nation are recognizing and beginning to take those steps away from egoic satisfaction to seeking something much deeper and everlasting. And it comes, as far as the world's concerns, in the form of unity and peace. And so, yeah, people will follow because of several reasons, but the thing is, we don't have to follow. We can't necessarily change it right away. We accept it and say that's happening, accept I know it was my egoic needs that led to that leadership. Recognize our small parts in it. Recognize that protesting and resisting and struggling against is not the answer necessarily. Accepting what is, but not saying that I don't accept the mandate of these leaders, but I don't have to but I'm accepting the fact that they're right now in the power. They have the power or some seat of power. And patiently explore what that means to you as an individual and what it means to us as a collective. But also see how the world is protesting, and the world is seeing the absurdity in it, and the world is seeing that we need more, and that we are going to get more. And it's just, to me, a very positive thing. Yeah, and like all things that come in, they all go out. Things arise, things dissolve. So nothing lasts. So this leadership's not going to last. And the world acceptance of this, or the power that this, is not going to last. Things are going to change. They're going to change regardless, right? Could have been the best leader in the world, but things are going to change. Things are always going to change. Leaderships are going to change. And that's just a way of life. But let's learn from everything that we're experiencing right now and what we're seeing. That's all I have to say about that. I hope that made sense. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a wonderful day.